All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and just get started. I am gonna be recording this just so that you guys
Recording in progress.
You will have access to this later on. I will send it to Technicare, and they can have it and distribute it and use it however they want to use this. All right, so just getting started. This is Flow. Flow is our main capture program here at PhotoLynx. I guess I should probably introduce myself to anybody who doesn't know me. My name is Tanya Pittman, and I work for PhotoLynx. I want to thank Technicare for asking me to do this webinar for you guys. We have another one coming up on Thursday that's going to be more highlighting our V2 integration between Flow and Blueprint, and how we can easily push up galleries to Blueprint via Flow and Click and pull those orders back down directly into Flow. So that's exciting stuff. I will have Kaylin Kelly helping me with that as well. So super excited to be here today. Okay, so high level of Flow, we're just going to kind of talk about what Flow is, how it works, and some of the things that you can do within it. Flow is our capture program that we offer through PhotoLynx. It is used for volume photography. We mostly have school, sports, dance events that run through Flow. I will just kind of go through high level how you can create a project, different ways you can capture in Flow, assigning packages, and then submitting to the lab. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create our project. And a project is basically a job that we're going to be photographing in Flow. We choose what type of job we're going to be photographing. Now, when you sign up with Technicare, they dial you in. They give you all of the options that you have for the different types of photography that can be going through here, as well as different layouts and graphics that you have available to you for use in Flow. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stick with my school program. I'm going to be photographing a school. The organization is going to be the name of the school that you are photographing. When you are adding a brand new one, you can come over here, choose the school name. I'm going to call this Technicare Test School. Oops, if I knew how to spell school. Put in the address information. This isn't really not important, so I don't put anything in there. The project name. Usually once you have an organization and you've added a school, you have different projects that you're going to go photograph. So this would be like fall 2021 or spring 2022, or if you are contracted with the school to do any of their events, their dances, that's what this project name comes into. So I like to include the school name in there. So I'm going to call this Technicare Test School, and I'm going to say fall 2021. This helps for when you do any future reporting throughout the program. The project name gets put on there quite a bit. And if you use that project name as something vague where it says fall 2021, it will work. It's just not as informative when you're looking at certain reports later on down the road. I also keep my event name the same as my project name. The catalog is going to be what set of packages you want to offer for this school. We have studios that do as generic as these are my fall packages. So they just have one, generic set of packages like my sample packages. Or you can go in depth as creating a set of packages for each district or for each school. It's very flexible in the way that you can use that. So I already have these sample packages created. I will go through the creation of packages with you in a little bit, but just for the sake of setting up a project, I'm going to just select what I already have. You can choose to include sales tax. That helps with reporting. You don't have to. It's not a required field. Whether or not you're photographing green screen. If you are photographing green screen, we're going to ask that you choose what your default background is going to be for that particular project. That default background is used later on in the process to know for like yearbook CDs or admin CDs. It's also used if a subject does not select a background with their package. That's the background that they get to use. So I'm just going to use this gray one. And if you're not photographing green screen, we don't have to have that selected at all. From here, I'm going to tell it that I do want to import my data, the roster that I got from my school. They provided to me. We want to bring in all of the data that we have available. So this is going to create a project for me. So it's going to make that container that has all of the information for that particular school, what packages, what background is tied for that school, the organization, all that information that we're in there now is all contained in this one project. All right, so from here, I'm ready to bring in my subject data. I have some sample data that I can use to bring in. This one is a text file. It can be a CSV file. It can be an Excel file. Tab delimited or comma delimited. We're pretty flexible. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it that I want to open up this data. It's going to give me a preview on the right-hand side of the subject data that I'm bringing in. And as you can see, I have a lot of data that I probably don't need for this project. So I can see on the left-hand side what's going to be mapped because I had a header that had my field names in there. So like first name is mapped, last name is mapped, and then there's some other things in here like code, move index. These are extra data fields that I don't really need. And I can see sequence numbers in here. I don't need sequence number. That's not data that I'm using within here. I actually don't want gender in there as well. So from here, this is what I'm happy with. This is the data set, the fields that I need for this particular job. Every job is unique. Every job is going to be different. And I'm going to go ahead and tell it to import that data. As it imports this data, what it's doing is it's creating a subject record for each child in the database that we have. And with that, it's assigning what we call internally in Flow a ticket code. And that ticket code is a globally unique character that you can see it right here. Here's our ticket code. Each one gets a unique one. And that ticket code is later on used for creating your camera cards so that if you're scanning a barcode in Flow or using an Opticon workflow or writing metadata to an image, all of those are supported within Flow, and I'll cover some of those in a little bit. That's the unique code that we know to match on. It's also used later on down the road when you are doing online galleries and you're going to be putting your images and data on like ImageQuicks for sale. That is going to be the unique password that the student will use to access their pictures online and place the orders through Blueprint. Okay, so we have created our project. We have imported our subject data. We are ready now to get ready for picture day. So part of getting ready for picture day is going to be printing out our camera cards or barcoded labels. Now, regardless of how you're photographing, whether you're going to be photographing tethered, which means that you are plugging your camera into your computer and photographing with Flow on site at the school, or you are using an Opticon scanner, which uses date timestamps, which basically will write a little data file for you. You do not have a computer on site for that. Or if you're using something to write into the metadata of the image for that ticket code information, we still need something to barcode. So that's going to be done in our reports. Now, before we want to go into that, it's important that we get our data sorted in the way that you want these camera cards or these labels to be printed. And it's very easy to do. We do that from our edit screen. And this could be by grade, by teacher, by homeroom. It's going to be the way that you want these cards or these labels to be sorted. I am going to do mine by teacher. And then I'm going to do it by grade. So I'm doing teacher ascending, and you can see at the very bottom I'm doing that. And then I'm going to do grade. And then I'm going to sort that. And you'll see that it's sorted this data in here. So we see our staff first, and then 6th, 7th. So from here, we are going to go in and do our camera cards. So under reports, the camera card that we're going to be looking for is going to be subject barcodes. And then from here, you have some selections that you can do. How many do you need on a sheet? Are you doing 8 up, 10 up, or 30 up? 30 up would be like a label. 8 up is probably our most common, but we do have a lot of people who use 10 up as well. Whether or not we want a a footer at the end of the page. If we're doing camera cards, we usually want to do a stack sort. And that means that it sorts it down so that when you break or cut your cards, they're in order on the way down. When you're doing labels, you don't normally want to do that because you're going to be sorting on that one sheet of labels. So I'm going to do a stack sort because I'm choosing to do camera cards. And then we can choose what information we want placed on these camera cards. Now, by default, let me show you what these look like, because we do have some default fields that will show up on the report. I think it's like first name, last name, project name, but when this previews, it'll pull it up for you. All right, yeah, so we have our first name, last name, the ticket code, and then our organization name. So from here, I'm going to say I actually really wanted to see the teacher on there. I wanted to see the grade. Sometimes student ID is nice to be seen on there. So I'm going to go ahead and preview that. And it's going to add that information. Now from here, we have a couple options. We can either print these directly to our printer if we're ready to do that. And if we're not ready to do that, we can just save it as a PDF and print it later. Okay, so we created our project. We have our camera cards ready to go. The next thing we probably want to do is, if we are going to be photographing on site and printing an ID card, one of the really neat things that we can do is we do a full project export, and that will export all of the data that we have set here, the package contents that we have tied to this. And then if for whatever reason you're going to be printing on site for like an ID card, if you're doing like a registration day or a proof sheet, we can tie those layouts, those designs, and I'll get into designing of those a little bit later, to that actual project. So if we go back to our project screen, we can go to our Technicare Fall, and we are going to go to Export Project. When we want to export project, we're going to tell it we want to do a full project. And this is where it's going to bundle everything up for your photographers. We want to tell it we want to save locally. And then here we have some advanced options. The one that I'm going to focus on is these selecting of layouts. So when we're getting ready to transfer stuff over to your photographers, you want the least path of resistance for them. You do not want them to have to pick what package set that they're supposed to use. You don't want them to have to choose what layout they're supposed to be printing if they're printing. So we can do all of that here. So we can tell it that I know that for a fact this school, we're printing this custom horizontal ID card. And then we can tie that to here. Once we have that dialed in, we can go in and we can tell it where we want to save it. I'm just going to save it to my desktop because I'm not fancy. And then we tell it to export. So it bundles everything up, gets ready for the photographer to go and photograph. And they take that PAF, they transfer it onto the laptop that they're going to be using, and they open up Flow, they go to the import export project, they browse out for that project that you just exported, which for me will be on my desktop somewhere because I made, and then they would open that up. When they open that up, it bundles everything like that we've created here, and this is what they see when they open their project. They see all of their subject data on the right. They'll have their layout in the layouts folder. It'll actually show a preview here, but I didn't actually import it in. Ready to print, ready to go. Now let's talk about photographers and how their day looks. So they have their camera cards that were printed. And if they're photographing in, like, say, a tethered scenario, this is the screen that they would be using. They would have their layout, if they're printing an ID card, selected here. And just by importing in that PAF that we exported out, it would already have that there. We can choose to show the layout preview if we wanted. I kind of feel like, to be completely honest, it's good for maybe the first 2 or 3 projects that you're photographing. I think it goes faster if you don't have it on. So once you're a photographer, you are comfortable with knowing that Flow is doing all the things that it says it's going to do, you're going to get a speed increase by not having it preview there. But I'll leave it previewed here just for now. Okay, so we have our layouts. here, we have our subjects loaded. Now, from here, the photographer has a couple ways that they can photograph in here. The first one would be a tethered workflow, which would be the student would come up and bring up their camera card. We would scan their camera card. When we scan the camera card, it would pull up the subject's data here. So we would then see Paige Courtney in here. And they would have their camera control software pointed to our hot folder. So once they photograph a subject, it would then go into the hot folder. And once it goes into the hot folder, oops, let me go to my hot folder. Once it goes into the hot folder, it's going to show on the left-hand side right here. From here, we have the ability to save that subject's image. We also have the ability to do an autosave. So if the photographer is not wanting to actually physically hit on this green plus sign here, we can set it up so that it'll auto assign that image and they never have to touch that image. Now let's say that we made a mistake. So we thought we scanned the record and we took the picture, but we see this is clearly not Paige. Oh, no big deal. We'll just send that image back to the hot folder and scan Trevor's barcode and save Trevor's picture. From here, we could have this set up to auto print, where it would automatically print this ID card directly to the hard card printer, or we can tell it to print by hitting F1. And then it'll print that ID card. If the photographer is going to be doing order entry on site, they have a couple ways of doing that. They can either get into the order entry screen and manually hit it this way. You can also set up barcodes that have the packages on them, and the photographer never has to see this screen. They can stay on this screen, and when they scan the order, it just adds it directly to the subject's record. We have some flexibility with workflows. Some of the things that we can do is force that only one image be saved to a subject, which means if I were to take a second picture and I had that enabled, it would bring them up side by side and I would choose which picture I wanted to use. You don't have to have that. You can set it up so that you can save as many pictures as you want to a subject. We also have the ability to say, yes, I'm photographing 5 pictures, but I know that my most recent picture, the last picture I take, is going to be my favorite because I'm only taking additional photos because I wasn't happy with the first one. And then that by default will be the primary image, which is like the main image. And that by default can be what the order is placed on if they're photographing or entering packages on site. All of these are flexible. There are a lot of settings that are within here. Now we had this year with COVID not wanting to handle camera cards and papers. So we did come up with some features to help with that. One of those is find a subject. And this was used, we had a lot of people that were using touch screens so they could actually just come in here and touch on their tablet when they knew the kid's name. The kids would say their name and bring it in. We could filter down based off of specific teachers or grades. We had the ability to change that out too. Grade, teacher, classroom. So if you knew you were photographing Butler's class right now, you could filter down on all the children that were in Butler's class. Oops. Teacher. Butler. And then here would be all the subjects that are in there. You also have the ability for us to show only the kids that were unphotographed. So as you're photographing in here, your list gets smaller. So as you go through and you're photographing, Butler's class, since Trevor was already matched, we could tell it to show and you can see Trevor went away. And so when we were ready to find the next kid, we could easily just click on their name, take their picture, and assign the the subject and print the ID card or proof or whatever it is we wanted to print. So this was something that was that we put in last year, and we've seen, you know, we've seen a lot of positive, or heard a lot of positive feedback from that. All right, so let's say the photographer's gone through, and well, I just kind of want to cover some of the other ways that you can bring orders in or bring images in. The other way that you can do this is, if you're not in a tethered scenario, is by truly keeping your camera cards in order. And then when you get back to the studio, we can take those images and we can drop them in the hot folder. And I'm going to do a handful just so you can kind of see. Drop them in the hot folder, and then the process is pretty much the same as if you're on site. You would scan that subject's barcode, and then you would save the picture. You would scan the subject's barcode, and then you would save the picture. The other way that we have to do that is by using metadata, which when using metadata, you are not photographing tethered, and you're using something like, I think Tether Tools is one of the programs that will do that. And you have a barcode scanner that's connected to your camera itself. And basically, as the student comes up, you would scan their barcode. It would write that unique ticket code into the subject's image data. And then when we come back into the studio, we basically say, hey, bring in these metadata images. You're going to match on that ticket code, and it matches all of the images up automatically. The last way to do that is the Opticon Scanner, which you have a little dongle scanner thing that it goes based on date, time stamp of your camera, and you basically scan the barcode and photograph the kid's image or images, and we have a sync data file that comes with us or with that data, and we drop that in. We tell it, because we have that support in here as well, we tell it to import in the Opticon images, and it does the same thing. It matches up those images and data. The last way that I have seen photographers get images and data into Flow is if they're using an external program where they have an actual image name in the database. We can do that as well. We basically, on that import screen that I showed you earlier, how we brought the data in, we tell it that a specific field has the student's photo data in it, and then where those images reside, and it brings them in, and they're all matched and ready to go. So this is kind of from the photographer side. Once they're done doing this, they're going to do a full project export, just like we did in the beginning, to get it to their photographer. It's going to wrap up all of the subjects that they photographed, any orders that they placed on them, any new kids they added, and it's going to bundle those up and ready for you to take it back either to a main studio station and combine them, basically. And then it'll merge them all together, and we will have all of our kids that were photographed for the Technicare Test School Fall 2021. Okay, so that's kind of the photography side. So now let's get a little bit more into production side. When in Flow, we have green screen tools, and I realized that I didn't put green screen images in here. I put gray images in here, so I should probably fix that, just so you guys can see how that works. And also, when you're photographing green screen or using green screen, you can drop transparent PNGs in there as well. So let me just throw some PNGs in there. There we go. All right, so we'll just save a couple of these just so you can see. So we'll say this is Matthew. Okay, female. All right, Andrew. Okay, so now we have all of our subjects that are matched and ready to go from our photographers. So from here, we have the job that's combined, and the first thing that we want to do is probably look at any crop or color correction that we have. So if you are doing your own green screen knockout, we do have this green screen tool where you can do your own pull out from here. I think the majority of our users are either outsourcing them or doing an export for retouch from here and then bringing them back in. But I'm going to go in and we're going to do some image adjustments. So in here, one of the newer things that we have added are color adjustments. We now have an RGB, and then we have a contrast, sharpness, and density. I'm going to start with my cropping. So I'm going to choose, we have lots of different options in here for overlays, it looks like, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say I'm going to do an 8:10 crop. And then I'm going to say that's what I like. I think that's what looks good. And then I can apply to all. Yes, I want to apply these crop settings to everyone. Now we can see that there's one kid that's different. So I can always go in for him and make adjustments if I see that there's someone else that needs to be adjusted in a different way. And forgive me, I'm not a cropper or color correction person. So we can do the same thing with our colors. So we have sliding bars here. We also have you can type in the number if you start realizing what numbers look good to you. Again, I'm not the best at, I just kind of want to show you. Once you get those adjustments done, it's the same thing. We can tell that we want to apply those to all. And I want to say just the color settings that I want to apply because I've already done my crop adjustments and changes that I wanted to do. So now I have all my color done in here, which is pretty cool. If you are using our auto head sizing program, which is an outside program that does batch head sizing, you have the ability here to easily bring in that crop data. Okay, so from here we have our, our images adjusted. We feel good about it. Cropping is good. You can always go through and scan camera cards and do some checks to make sure that photographer, looks like they were on point. Probably what we want to do is really get it up to, now that we have everything matched, color crop is ready to go. The quicker we can get it up online for our e-commerce, the better, because then mom and dad and auntie and all of those fun people are ready to order pictures. They're excited. They know you did picture day. So, and I'm only going to do high level on this because we're doing a little bit more in depth on this on Thursday. But basically, we're going to be using this click icon, which is going to upload to Click, which is our PhotoLynx image cloud, which gives you, which then will push to Blueprint. And if you're using any of our Click apps like ClickBooks or ClickGo or Click Elements, this syncs all of it to those products as well. So basically, we're going to tell it you want to select our Click organization. And if this was a school that you had photographed before and pushed up before, you would choose it from this list. Because it's a new school for me, I'm going to add a new organization. It's going to create that organization, and then it has some questions for us. So do we want to upload everyone, or do we want to upload just those that have photos attached to it? I'm going to say I just want to upload photos or subjects with photos attached to it. And when I'm doing PNGs, I'm going to upload it with a transparent background, because when it gets to Blueprint for your online orders, you don't want it to have a rendered background. You want it to be transparent so that they can see through the ordering process that what the different backgrounds look like for those images. And then it asks me if I want to send over my primary image flag or any other image flags that I have in there. I always say yes, because it can be used in other applications. And then I'm going to tell it that I'm going to send crop data in a new image. This is my first time uploading. This is usually more applicable for if you are updating, if you made a change in Flow and you need to update. So we're going to tell it that we want to upload subjects and images, and it's going to go through and it's going to start with my subject data. And it's uploading right now. You can see like 15 of 80. I don't have that many subjects in here. And then it's going to start uploading my images. I only had 4 pictures, so it shouldn't take too long for that to happen. Once that's done, you can see that it gives us the option to publish our gallery, and it can see that I'm using image quicks. So when I'm ready, I can say, go ahead and create that gallery. The other thing that you may see down below here is our look for digital deliveries to send. We have the option within Flow using Click or using Capture Life to send digital deliveries based on an order. If you are using Blueprint to do your digital deliveries, you don't have to do anything in here. Blueprint handles those deliveries on their own. It's just another option that we have for our customers. Now that this is up in Click, we can publish it to Blueprint and it's ready to go for orders to be placed. All right, so we've done all of our cropping, we've done our color, we've gotten it up to Click and Blueprint, so we're ready for orders to be placed. Now we can start looking at some of the other things that I kind of wanted to cover that are not necessarily in the order of workflow. One of the things that I wanted to look at was our layout creator. We have our layout creator that most commonly is known for building like ID cards or using it to build proof sheets, things that you would be rendering as Studio. But you also have some flexibility to build products that can be used to be printed at the lab. So the lab does a really wonderful job. You can see Technicare has a lot of products that they offer. So under here for your lab catalog, this is going to show you all of the products that they have, the collections that they have put together. And there's a lot. You have a lot to choose from. But let's say you wanted to do a unique collage, or you wanted to do a specific memory name with specific graphics. You can definitely do that using the catalog options here and our layout creator. So in our layout creator, we have now the ability to create subdirectories. And so I see studios use this a couple different ways. I have some studios use it based on school. So you'll see all the different school names in here, and any ID card or proof sheet or layout at all that they have, they drop in there. The other way I see studios do this is like this, which is more product driven. You know, like here my ID cards are all in this one location, or my my sports products are all in this location. All basically you're doing is creating a subfolder in that layout folder, and if you need help with that, please contact support. We can definitely help you with it. But the neat thing is that we can go in here and we can design anything that we want to offer to our product or to our customers without having to have someone else design it for you. You have full control over it. Basically what you would do is you would build this the size that you would be printing it. So if you're going to be doing a memory mate that's 8 by 10, you'd build your layout in here as an 8 by 10. And then when we go into our catalog and we build our packages, so if I have my sample packages here, what we see here is that we'll see my package A. You can see I already have an 8 by 10 product that I pulled from over here from all of the product offerings that the lab has. From here, I'm going to go ahead and tell it that I actually have an 8 by 10 layout that I want to use for this. So I can say sports product, and I'll say magazine soccer. So now that layout that we designed and created in Flow, when we submit these orders to the lab, it will render out that product that you've beautifully designed, and it's ready to print for the lab. Okay, so that one I wanted to cover. Post, let's see, what other ones did I want? I'm going to add a couple packages to some of these kids so we can just go through the process of submitting orders. I'm going to say he got a different background. He got blue. He got gray. That's fine. Okay, so we do have some reporting in Flow that we can look at. We can do a subject order summary. So once we start getting orders, either from order envelopes or from Blueprint orders, we do have reporting in here that'll show you. As long as you put your price in there, you will get report totals. We do have, you can see photographed subjects, unphotographed subjects, order details, All of these are pretty, pretty standard. So here are my photograph subjects. And then you can choose what information you want to see on there. It gives you an image name. So these are all really helpful reports. On the capture screen, if you are looking to narrow down certain packages, just so you can see, or certain grades, we do have some really nice filtering tools in here. So we can show kids that have, new orders. We can show kids that, have this large gaps between times is helpful with an Opticon workflow. Subjects that have images from different cameras. So let's say Johnny went to camera A and camera B and got their picture taken. You have the ability to see that. We can see if there are kids that have more than one picture taken. So if you really were hoping to narrow it down to one photo per subject, we can do that. Images that are tied to an order, images that have color correction. This right here is just, as you see within the next couple months, this is really going to grow. We have been doing a lot in here, as well as in our search and replace data. We are going to be doing more in here. So this would be, Mrs. Smith's name was spelled S-M-I-T-H-E, and it's supposed to be S-M-I-T-H. You can go in and say, give me all of Mrs. Smith's, and replace it to this. Text formatting, this would be if you got the data from the school and it was all uppercase and you need it to be name case, it'll correct it for you within here. Okay, so then we've gone through, we've sorted our data, we've edited our data, everything's formatted correctly, we've tied our layouts to our packages, we've brought in all of our orders, now we're ready to submit to the lab. This screen right here is where you're going to submit to your lab. We are going to see in here a couple options. So when we bring orders down from, say, Blueprint, and we do orders manually, we keep track of that. We have track of the ones that are quote unquote web orders and the ones that are manual orders. So if you only wanted to send your web orders or your manual orders, you have the ability to do that. If you submitted an order that needed a correction, you can always look and grab a previous order, and we can do the correction and resubmit it. If you just had one kid that mom called and she said, I need it now, you can find that kid and just export out that, or just submit that one kid's orders. These options right here are all options from your lab that they offer to you. Whether or not you want to ship to studio or ship to school. If they are online orders that have direct shipping, it will recognize that and treat them as so. If you don't want them to be direct shipped, maybe there was a mistake on the order form and you didn't mean for that to be an option, we have the option to ignore that as well. If you have transparent PNGs, you're probably going to want to render green screen and flow. If you have done the green screen knockout and in flow and you want to use that for your packages, you're going to do the same. If for some reason, I don't know if the lab does knockouts for you guys or not, but if they do, then you would uncheck that and that would just send the green image to them. And then you can choose how you want those orders sorted. So say you want it by grade, teacher, however. And then we have this option here, which is really, I feel like helpful, is review order before sending. So I can check mark this and I'm going to tell it I want to submit these orders. I'm not going to really put too much information in here. It'll go through and it's going to render all the images and we can see what it's going to look like because it's going to pop up for us and make sure that we give approval before this gets submitted. Now this is good. Your first couple orders, especially if you're doing green screen, or especially if you're going to be doing like the layouts that are tied to your products, because you can verify that they look the way that you're expecting them to. All right, so it came up on my other screen, so let me bring it over. So here it shows, this is all the information that goes to your lab, and I'm going to change this view so that we can see large icons. So I would see right here, oh my gosh, that's not the kid's picture. That's not what I want to send. So from here, I would say, no, I don't want to send it. and it won't send it. And then I can go in and find that layout and correct it. So it's just kind of cool when you're first going in and submitting orders. All right, so we've kind of gone through like the majority of the general workflow. There's some high level stuff I'd like to just kind of show and go over with you. One of them is going to be our remote image service. So what this is for is if you are photographing either green screen or using, we have a couple different companies that we work with for color correction and retouching and things like that. You can do that through here. Basically, the images will, I don't think I have one connected, but it adds all the images in here. I can tell it what I want done, put any notes in there, and then I'll hit upload images. So this will upload my images. They go up to like say 36 pics or whatever, and then they do their knockout or they do their color correction. Then we'll see this in progress. And once it's done, we can download those images and it will back up the original image and then use this new image for the subject's image. You can do this yourself using export for retouch as well. It's not as seamless, but we do have that option where you export the images out. You can upload them via FTP or wherever and then pull them back in if it's maybe a service that we don't have a direct connection with. But right here, you just fill in who it is that you're using, which is usually this one, and then your username and password. So that one I wanted to touch on, and then I wanted to touch a little bit on project settings. So this little checkbox will take you to the same spot as this little checkbox. We just have it in 2 locations. But when I started talking about different ways that your photographer can photograph and have it auto-assigned, those can all be done in here. So the image options, this is going to be kind of back end, like how you would like to see your image renamed. So say the image comes into the hot folder as DSC123. Do you want it to be replaced with the kid's first name, last name? Do you want it to be replaced with just a prefix, like maybe a school code? Do you want to just use the original file name? So all these can be adjusted in here. The other thing is event triggers. So this could be on, not a new hot folder image. So when the image hits the hot folder, do you want it to auto assign? And you can say, yes or no. So these are all custom for each project. So depending on what kind of photo day you have, let's say one day you are printing ID cards on site. So you might want to have it, auto print in here, but you don't want that all the time, So these different options in here are good based on project. I think I've covered most of what I was going to cover. Do y'all have any questions for me?
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay, great. When you're there's the odd time I forgot to import my data. So can you do that after the fact? Like say you're creating a project and then I want to import, but I forgot to import my data.
Oh, you mean, so you created you haven't photographed anything yet?
No. I'm just wondering how you could create or import the data after you've done your project.
Yeah. So if I right here go to create new project, I choose what it is I'm photographing, my organization, and I'm just going to do test in here again. It's very creative, I know. And I'll uncheck this import, right? So I created a project, but I have not imported it.
Right. Okay. So how do you import it?
Yep. So now once that project is created, it'll just take a second because it clears out the previous project that was there. Okay. If I go to project here, I can now open this test project and I can go to edit and then I can go to import data. That can be done anytime. So you can absolutely create the project, get it all ready to go, which I recommend, get as much done as you can. And then when you get the data, come in and bring it in.
Oh, very cool. And so when you talked about a text, if you inputted a text, is it a text? Most schools send me the CSV file or... That's
okay. A CSV file works just fine. A text file is just what I happen to have on my desktop to be completely honest.
So when you say text files, that's not your text file. Like I have one school that sends me, and it's such a tiny school that I just retype everything. But it's a Word. Can you import that or not?
You cannot bring in a Word doc, no.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay. I'm going to hopefully change them this year. So, Uploading the PNGs, you know, from the Plick cloud, from the Plick area. You said upload PNGs. Now, I guess that's where I'm kind of confused. It says when I want to do my yearbooks, does that mean like when I have to do my yearbook, do I upload PNG rendered with default background, or
where do you do your yearbook CD from?
Sorry?
Do you build it like in Plickbooks or are you using PlickGo?
PlickGo, sorry.
Yeah, so that's okay. You still can upload that transparent PNG because in Plick, we can designate what the default background is. Because when we upload here, it uploads the backgrounds with it.
Okay, sounds good. Sorry for all the questions here.
No, I'm happy to answer them.
And let's see, now the under order entry, I find they used to have it where it's kind of going across. Now they're kind of just going, like all your packages were going across, but now they're just going all the way down. See here, it looks like it's going across, but before it was going all the way down, and then you had to scroll down if you had quite a few packages.
Well, I only have a couple, but it will go down.
Oh, is there any way of changing? Like, are you guys just keeping that way it is? There's no way of changing it back?
Currently we are, and what we're doing, so it used to be the order options would be at the top, and the packages would be here, and now we kind of have them side by side.
Okay.
A little bit, we're trying to make it a little bit easier.
Right. Gotcha.
And that's a recent change. We just recently made that change.
Right. Okay. I think that's all. Oh, now if I want and I know you never touched on this, and maybe that's Thursdays, gray card, like Mr. Gray. If I want to change the preferences, like I find sometimes the pictures are a bit, maybe say my pictures were a bit dull, you know what I'm saying? If I wanted to increase the, I guess, how do I do that? Like
you want to change your Mr. Gray preferences?
Yeah.
You can do it here. So if you go to preferences and then capture, you can say my target brightness is this, and this is my tolerance, and then your suggestion, whether it's to move lights or just up.
Right. So then if I want them to look a little, I guess that just is in my, oh, never mind. Forget. It's okay. I was just, I don't know exactly how I'm trying to articulate this. So no problem. We're good.
Well, if you're looking to adjust your images like brightness, you're better off looking. Let me go back to that other project that I had kids in. Because Mr. Gray is just reading that gray card. I don't know that that's
true. Yeah, good point. Gotcha.
But you may be better off with this. Let me, when this loads, I'll under adjust images, we've got this here now where you can adjust contrast, density, and sharpness.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that might be a better option for you.
Yeah.
And I would recommend when you make changes like that, maybe just send a sample to the lab and make sure that it's coming out the way you want it, you know.
Okay. We'll do that. I wonder if there's anything else. You answered all my questions.
Well, awesome, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys spending the afternoon or morning or whatever time zone you are in with me. I will get this recording over to Technicare so they can share it with whoever they want.